Why do you think it's important for LOs to view themselves as problem solvers over salespeople? This is obviously a very, not just popular recently, obviously, but this is a way of thinking that seems to have become the norm. Feel free to push back on that, but I feel like it's not intuitive necessarily. So it's the norm when you've been trained, but it's not intuitive if you're, kind of just going for it and whatever. So I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who see themselves still as salespeople and have that mentality. Let's speak on that a little bit.
So I can speak my only experience with this, and I'll give you. I mean, besides from the way we teach it, my personal experience with this is when I got my first job in insurance. I worked for a company, and they would get you leads, which is they would send out like, hey, we can give you some Medicare information. Somebody would apply for that information, then I would call them sometimes to deliver the information. And then ultimately my job was supposed to be to do kind of a needs questionnaire and try to sell them some sort of insurance. And there were times where you went out and found a need for somebody, and I was really great at that, and I sold a product. And then I went out on a couple of runs with some of the top guys, and they were manufacturing need and selling in a way that made me super uncomfortable. And I remember this one woman in Westfield, New Jersey, where I grew up. We were visiting her house, and her husband had recently passed away 6-7 months ago. She had no idea what was going on with her finances, and she really needed help in a very different kind of way. And she also didn't have a Medicare supplement, so the best product for her would have been that product, and it would have made sense. But they paid the lowest commissions, whereas term life insurance paid really high commissions. And so instead, this salesman tried to sell her on why she should get life insurance. And when she figured out why we were there and that we were trying to sell her life insurance, she got so upset she threw us out of the house. And I felt gross. I wasn't even doing it, by the way. I didn't say a word. I was really just watching, but I felt so gross with the whole thing, and I just didn't, it didn't sit right with me. And I decided very much from that point forward, I was never going to be like that. I knew I probably never would be like that anyway. But once I saw it firsthand, it was like that is not me.
Right.
And so ultimately, when I realized that job, I wasn't finding out people that had real needs. I was still doing okay. There were like 20 guys. I was like fourth or fifth. But the guys at the top were like, they either were really genuinely paranoid and saw our need everywhere, or they were being opportunistic in a way that was never going to be my style. And the reason why I found the mortgage industry is that they were giving you these leads in the call center, and unless the loan made sense, you didn't have to present it. You weren't going to present it. People weren't going to do it unless it made sense. And so it was very easy to say, okay, if I believe in this, then I believe I'm the best person for you to do it with. And if I don't believe in it, then great, I'll hang up the phone, I'll call somebody else. And the outcomes. And so that was very early for me, very obvious to me. It was like I needed to be able to believe in what I was doing in order to sell it. I'm not a faker. I'm super passionate. It comes through. It makes me good at what I do, but I have to believe in what I'm doing. And so very early on, that was a lesson for me. That was like, if either give your best advice, whether that gets you a sale or not. It's kind of like the very, very first way I went into it. The reality is now more than ever, people understand the concept of salespeople. They understand their options. They have the internet, and they can Google, and they can figure out what's out there, whatever else it is. And but there are certain con artists, right? And they call confidence people, right? That's what they call them, right? That can slip things by people on a normal basis. But most people, talking to most people, we actually have really high detectors for BS, right? Sometimes we tolerate, sometimes we don't. Sometimes people they understand that something's BS, but they're so agreeable they can't get themselves out of it, or they get bullied and do something they don't want to do. But those things leave toxic residue. And when you're in the mortgage industry, your reputation and how likely people are to refer you again and again and again, in the real estate agents you work with and the partners, your reputation is the reason they're referring you. And if you start to put your interests above the interests of others, people will not want to work with you, right? And then if you take some of our go-giver philosophies, and we read that and teach that book, it's actually the amount of influence you have is directly correlated to how much you put other people's needs before your own. And so I believe in the product we sell here. I believe in what we do in the mortgage industry. And so why would I ever waste my time trying to get somebody to do it if I didn't think it was good for them, when there are so many other people I can sell an amazing product to that totally makes sense for them? And so it's just a choice of going and focusing on things, and then the residual results that come from that.